Good morning, Pathfinders. My name is Saeed.
And my name is Alicia.
We will be reviewing today the honor of rocks and minerals. And we will start by defining what is a mineral and what is a rock. So what is a mineral, Alicia?
A mineral is a naturally occurring inorganic solid.
Okay. A rock is an aggregate of one or more minerals.
Preferably more than one, so there's a quite definition between a mineral and a
It's
rock.
a mix of both, basically.
One of the requirements is for the honor is to find 15 separate specimens and to define them. So we'll let you guys do that part on your own.
Yes, that's our homework for you. But in the meantime, we're gonna divide the three types of rocks that exist around the world. The number one is igneous rock. What is an igneous rock, Alicia?
Okay, so an igneous is formed when lava cools and solidifies. So a good example of that is obsidian.
Exactly. Obsidian, as most of you know, Native Americans used this rock to make knives, arrowheads, and tools, basically, to cut. The rock is very sharp, glassy looking, dark,
Smooth.
of course. Another example is lava rock. Many of you know this rock because it's used as ornaments outside in the garden. And another one is granite. Granite is used for construction, also for ornaments, and many other uses. So the number two is what?
Sedimentary. It's formed when sediments are carried by wind or water and, of course, turned into stone. So some good examples are...
Okay, here in Florida, a very common rock in Florida is coquina rock. The components of the coquina rock is shale, sand, and other minerals and other pieces of rocks, and they solidify and they become the coquina rock. Another good example is this rock right here is called sandstone. Where did you find this?
This one actually found in Zion, out in Utah, Zion Canyon. And basically, I have to be very careful with it and not do that because what happens, it starts breaking and crumbling.
Yeah.
So we'll let it drop that.
Yes.
Another good example is chalk. Of course, we don't have chalk with us, but you all know what chalk is. It's very powdery.
Now, the third type of the rocks is metamorphic. Metamorphic rock is formed when another type of rock is transformed by great heat and pressure. Basically, a rock is transformed with something like very heavy and very hot, transform it into a different type of rock. A very good example is marble. I have an example here, the marble rock. They are used as to make sculptures, as you know. Another one is marble chips. They are used outside in the garden. I'm pretty sure you know about that one. The other example is slate, right? Slate, which is these pieces right here. I have some examples of that type of rock.
Of course, slate and marble are sometimes used as kitchen countertops, which is very, very useful because they're so hard, so it's hard to chip them away. So we're going to move on to the most scale of hardness. Basically it goes from 1 to 10, 1 being the softest, 10 being the hardest. The hardest one, which is 10, is obviously the diamond. It's not its absolute hardest. The absolute hardest is actually much greater than that, but that is the hardest one on the scale. The one that is the least hardest is the talc, which is number 1. And its absolute hardness is 1, like you cannot go beyond that structure.
The talc is basically powder.
Basically.
They use that as powder. The Mohs scale is based on very simple materials. Basically, I'm gonna give you some examples of the hardness of different materials, so you know what most scale is based on. For example, your fingernails. Your fingernails have a hardness of 2.5. The next material would be a copper penny. A copper penny has a hardness of 3.5. The next one will be a knife blade. A knife blade has a hardness of 5.5. The next one is window glass. A window glass has a hardness of 6.5, just like tile, and just like what is it? A file, a steel file. I don't have it right now, but I'm going to use a nail as an example because it's the same material as the file. That's something that you use to sharpen the blade, which is the same material as this one. The hardness is 6.5.
Okay, so the difference, like the harder the scale is, the more likely it is to be able to scratch something that's softer.
Yes.
So that's the big thing to remember.
Yes. Now, all the examples I mentioned are hard, right? But surprisingly, as it sounds, quartz on the scale of Mohs is 7. It's hard, and quartz can easily scratch steel because steel is softer than quartz. It's 6.5. That's interesting.
It's also very interesting to know that the minerals of silver and gold is much softer. It's on a scale of a 2.5 to 3.5, and a diamond is up 10.
Now, the next terms that we're going to review is cleavage, which is what is cleavage?
It's the tendency of crystalline materials to split along a definite plane. So when you actually cut a rock or mineral, you actually see the actual lines and the shape of that rock or mineral.
The next one is specific gravity. Now, specific gravity basically is the ratio of the density of a material relative to the density of water. Okay, I'm going to give you an example. Water has a density of 1 gram. 1 gram is 1 cubic centimeter. If I relate this one to a diamond, diamond has 3.52 times more than water, the density of water.
So what happens if I actually put a diamond into water?
It sinks.
It sinks because it weighs a lot more, obviously. So anything that is heavier than water will automatically do that. What would be a good example of something that would float? Something that doesn't weigh the gram. Chalk, maybe?
It would not float.
It would not float. The chalk would actually dissolve because it's powder. So it didn't actually do anything, it'll just mix in with the water. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is luster. Luster, we have to be very careful not to confuse it with another descriptor. Luster is the way light interacts with the surface of a crystal, rock, or mineral. A good example is a diamond. A diamond, we're going to talk about the appearance, the actual appearance of the materials. A diamond is said to have an adamantine luster to it. Something that's a little bit more easily to understand is a pyrite, which is the lookalike to gold. It has a metallic luster. It has a metallic look to it. Another good example is soapstone. Soapstone has a greasy look to it, not texture, greasy look to it.
Basically, the luster is how the material, how the rock or the mineral looks outside, how it appears the eye on the outside?
Here's a really good. I want to give you guys a good example. I have the obsidian.
Mm-hmm.
Obsidian has a glossy look to it. It looks smooth.
No, I don't have
Like
any
watery.
example. But copper, any form of copper, it looks the same. It looks metallic. So that is luster, basically. How the material looks like outside.
Another one is streak.
Streak, yeah.
Streak is the color of the powder produced when it's dragged across an unweathered surface.
Okay. Basically, I'm gonna use a sandpaper for this one. I know it's a little farther, but I'm gonna try to show the difference of different rocks. For example, to the naked eye, the color of this lava rock is red, dark red. But if I put it against the sandpaper, the color is actually kind of pink.
This is something that we suggest you do at home, so that way you can tell
the difference.
The difference, yeah.
Now, this is granite. Granite is gray. Sometimes it's pinkish. Granite comes in a different colors, but the color that I'm going to show right now is totally different from how the rock looks like. It's white. Now, if I take fluorite, which is like teal color, and I put it against the sandpaper, it's going to be white. So it doesn't necessarily, the rock is not necessarily the same color as it looks like.
Let me give you another good example. Hemanite is in black appearance, but when you scratch it, it's white.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is, actually, I stand corrected, it leaves a red streak. So if you ever come across a Hemanite black material, you can check it out. It has a red streak to it. Something else that we're going to talk about now is the texture. The texture in geological reference is a physical appearance or character of a rock, such as its size, shape, and the arrangement of the actual structure of it. Something they can do too is, like, if you are able to see it under a microscope, you can actually see it a lot better in detail.
Yes, basically the crystal, it shows the actual shape of the material.
The next one we're going to is to crystal now. And that's the last of the descriptors. This crystal itself is a solid, right?
Yes.
Okay. So a crystal is a solid whose atoms, molecules, or ions are packed into a regular ordered form. Some examples could be
Snowflakes.
What else?
Diamonds, which is a very, very common. Salt. Very common salt is an example of a crystal.
If you put those actually into under a microscope, you can see the pattern is very, very, very precise. There's different patterns to each of them, but if you look at the individual, like snowflakes, it's really, really precise. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is the 4 uses of rocks and 4 uses of minerals.
Okay, this is very common. Pretty sure you know many uses of the rocks, let's say. How can you use a rock? A building material for a house, ornaments outside your house, something to, I'm pretty sure you know this, many people use this on the kitchen to cook. How would you describe that piece of rock that you use to to how do you say, to make something with a rock. So you put something, it's like a container made out of rock, and you put another rock inside, and then you move it.
They usually use that granite.
It's a granite?
Granite
Yes.
container.
Okay, but what is the name of that?
I forgot.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, usually you see that in a lot of the Caribbean islands where you have like a granite bowl
Mhm.
with a granite, not spoon, it's more like it looks like a hammer, but you use it to grind the actual, a lot of minerals in it
Mhm.
for cooking.
Food.
For food.
Okay. Okay, so
Ooh.
you can come up with other examples. We're just giving you some examples of it. What is the other one?
For minerals.
For minerals. Okay. Lenses. The quartz. The quartz is very useful for lenses because of the clear look that it has. It's almost like glass. Another one is for lasers. The structure of the actual mechanism, it needs actually a crystal to create laser, and crystals are very useful on that.
Usually for the minerals that are used for lasers are sapphire is one example, also the rubies is one. Another thing that minerals have use for is currency. Gold, silver, copper is usually used for currency. We can actually see that in the Bible as well.
In the Bible, we have many examples of the use of rocks where they mention it. One of the examples is in 1 Samuel 17. This is a very known story. It's about David and Goliath. Do you remember when he was about to face the giant? He went to the river and picked up some of the round river rocks. And I tried to imagine they were something like this one. Maybe it was a little bigger, or maybe smaller. But the point is, a rock was very important on that occasion because that's what David used to defeat the giant. Just like us, we can defeat any problem if we trust in God, because God is bigger than any problem that we have. We might not see it right now, but one day God will put down any problem when He comes back, and then we're gonna be happy forever with Him. Now, the next time that you see a rock, remember that Christ is the foundation, the main rock, the foundation that we need in our lives. We're gonna jump to the last step that we have in this class is the foundation of the New Jerusalem.
So there's going to be 12 stones that are the foundation of the New Jerusalem. I'm going to list them for you. They are jasper, sapphire, chalcedony, beryl, also known as the emerald. There's also sardonyx, the ruby, chrysolite, beryl, topaz, chrysoprase, turquoise, and of course amethyst. Now, the only example that we have here is the actual amethyst.
It comes in many shapes and different varieties of colors, but overall the same purplish color is present on the rock. Amethyst is a variety of quartz. Quartz has a hardness of 7. It's exactly in the middle of the hardness in the Mohs scale. Very interesting. The first in the Mohs scale, the first precious stone is amethyst. It's quartz, and it has a perfect number, which is 7. There's also another interesting point on this one. But any extra knowledge that you want to have, you can look at it for yourself. That's your homework. So I'm pretty sure you've seen any videos about rocks and minerals, but we wanted for you to see some examples of the rocks that we have. You can create your own collection, and you can start by just picking up some rocks outside your house or any place that you go, any parks. Rocks are everywhere, and in fact, everywhere we see the rocks, even the sand is rocks. It's just that they are so small. But what is something? It's a hobby that is very fun to do. In our case, obviously, we like to collect rocks, and it's just a part of it. But you can start your own at any time. And well, I hope you enjoy this today's video, and we hope to see you next time. Okay?
Guess have fun.
Fun.